This episode of the Party Loaded podcast is proudly sponsored by Audible.com. Check out their awesome catalogue of audiobooks with over 180,000 titles to choose from. And be sure to grab a free audiobook on us and support the show by visiting audibletrial.com/endgame.
Let's party.
Hey everybody, it is time for Party Loaded. It is the video gaming podcast where we every week catch up, bunch of mates chatting about awesome video games, everything that is great in the video gaming world. This is episode 198. My name is Luke Retallick, and I'd like to kick this episode off by saying, Free Hong Kong! Very topical. Anyway.
Wow.
We'll get on to that.
Political. We're getting political today.
Well, you know, who the hell do we answer to? Nobody, so we can get away with anything we want.
That's true.
We're officially edgy now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Because
I was already edgy.
It's exactly the thing that was needed in this situation, like a podcast like ours to stand up for what's right and really make a difference in the world. Anyway, to help me make a difference tonight, we have Adrian Chia and Matt the Game Dad Diet. Welcome back, guys. We've had a short break, but we're back, so let's do the games thing.
Yes. Well, good evening, charming listeners.
No, nice. I like that.
Yes. That's nice.
All of them, every single one without fail.
Yes.
If you listen to the podcast, you are charming.
Oh, I feel great about that. I think we're getting off on a great foot tonight. I'm feeling very warm and very fuzzy about absolutely everybody that I've spoken to about games in the last couple of weeks. And Adrian, I'm going to extend that to you too. I've missed you, man. It's been good.
I've missed you too.
Yeah.
Automatic response.
Nice. All right. Well, anyway, let's dispense with those pleasantries and get stuck right in, because we do have a shed load of stuff to cover tonight in terms of what's been up to in the last couple of weeks. So, Adrian, what's been up with you, man? What have you been playing since Matt and I have been gallivanting off over the other side of the country doing things?
Just Destiny 2, really. I have been playing another game. I've been playing Indivisible, which was a Indiegogo game that was backed by myself and Christian. Made by the Skullgirls creators. But I'm going to save that for when Christian's going to join us, because I think together, with our powers combined, we can summon Captain Planet. No, we can just
you Voltronize
have
the
more
shit
input
out of
on that. So yeah. Apart from that, I've just been playing more Destiny 2 like a madman.
Now, you've actually surged ahead a bit, because we haven't had as much time to sort of sink in as you have. So what are your week 2 Shadowkeep impressions looking like?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we talked a lot about Shadowkeep in general, but here it is. Here's my true impressions of Shadowkeep, and it's going to differ from everyone else's on the podcast, but I think it's just average. I'm like, it's fine. But I think that's just systemic of me not being as invested in Destiny 2 as other people. I found the campaign to be pretty lackluster. I found the content to be no real different, and just more sort of layers of grind added on, which is fine, because that's what I've committed to. Like, I don't have a problem with the grind, because I play grindy games, tons of grindy games. So for me, that's enough for me. It was just, I guess there was a lot of hype leading up to it. Like, there was a lot of like, Shadowkeep's going to be amazing, blah blah blah, Armor 2.0, and it's fine, but it's just more reasons to grind. So I kind of tend to distill things down into like their base elements. So, what has the game given me to experience? And if it's just more grinding, that's okay, but I'm not going to be impressed by that necessarily.
Sure, I get it, yeah.
That's it, really. Like, for people who are like, and I'm nowhere near as invested in the lore as a lot of people, and people don't need to say it, because I acknowledge that what the events that happen in the expansion are probably amazing, and I'm sure they're awesome, and I'm sure that they're groundbreaking and excellent for those who know the lore or care about the lore, but I don't really. So for me, it was just kind of blah. That's it, really. aside from that, the weekly grind is still enough to keep me going. But I did say to Christian the other day, I know my own personality, and I know that I was as invested in Warframe then as I am in Destiny now, and now I can't even look at Warframe. It's like when you're super hungry and you think, oh, I'm gonna eat so much KFC. I'm just gonna gorge on KFC, and you're eating it, and it's like, oh yes, KFC. And then like 5 minutes later, you're like, I'm never eating KFC again.
Yeah,
I don't even want to look at it. I'm not even like in the mood for KFC. It's kind of like that. Like that happened with Warframe, where like the nature of my personality is like gorged on it. Now I can't even pick it up, and instead it's Destiny 2. I don't know when I'm going to hit the wall, but it will happen eventually, and I won't play Destiny for like a year.
Yeah.
But for now, I'm pretty invested in it, so we'll just see how that goes.
Yeah, someone who I spoke to this week, who knows you pretty well, made the comment to me that one of the ways to probably prevent that burnout from happening as quickly as it sometimes does with you in games is to make sure that you're doing the social component a bit more. So I think maybe we need to do some more, fire teaming up and do some stuff.
Who is this mystery psychoanalyst that is giving you advice on how to keep me engaged? Could be
anybody. I mean, I happen to agree because I know you reasonably well too. But yeah,
who is this mad scientist treating me like a hamster in a cage?
It was me.
No.
No.
By the way, do you guys have any food pellets? Because I'm kind of jonesing for some food pellets.
None that taste like KFC at any rate.
Oh, damn it. Yeah. Give me my KFC pellet.
Chicken pellets.
If KFC came out with pellets and that was all that they were called and no one knew what was in them, I'd eat them. I'd eat pellets.
I could see that happening too.
Yeah,
you would gorge yourself on them and then never would have looked at them ever again.
Give me the pellets. If you made them like the kind of thing that would only be around for like a short amount of time, I'd probably go out and...
but it's basically the KFC version of Caramilk.
Exactly. Yes, Caramilk, the craze-stricken nation. Have you guys... This is a little bit off topic, but do you guys know that I have like hundreds and hundreds of bags of shaker fry seasoning in my cupboard?
I actually did know that. I had forgotten that, but I did know that at some point.
Yeah, my wife's brothers, 2 of them work at Macca's, and when the shaker seasoning came out, because I love McDonald's shaker fries, like you guys don't even get it, like I love it. And when it came out recently,
I have a picture of you covered in these, I'm pretty sure, somewhere.
Yeah. I've got like a shot of me lying on the bed, like covered in sachets of shaker fries.
Scrooge McDucking it.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm pretty sure that I have logged in on the wrong podcast.
Anyway, shaker fries are great. For anyone listening at home, shaker fries. That's my takeaway. So my reply to Adrian, what have you been playing this week? Shaker fries. That's the real answer.
This is the Adrian Facts podcast now.
Oh, it's amazing. But just to get back to the Destiny subject for just a second, as fascinating as I find the shaker fry conversation. One of the things in terms of the hype around the release is that I think a good portion of the hype was also around the new light launch, which is more for people who are looking to get into Destiny who maybe haven't played for a while. And obviously we're not the target audience as much for that, so part of that's going to fall by the wayside as far as we're concerned. So yeah, but no, I get it. I think that the story is very much like compared to some of the other story. I guess arcs of recent time, like especially the Forsaken story, which was a lot more self-contained. This one is very much the opening chapter of a bigger thing. So
fair enough.
Yeah, if it feels kind of lackluster, I think that's probably a big part of the reason behind it. It's only part of a story essentially. So yeah,
this is when I jump in. Go on, Adrian.
No, the only thing I was going to say is that it's not really spoilery, so it's safe for the listeners. But if you do want to go completely sans spoiler, then maybe skip ahead the podcast 10 seconds. One thing I do really like the idea of, whether or not it manifests or not, is perhaps the idea of being able to pick light or dark as a result of like the story unfolding. I don't know enough about the lore if that would be a thing, but that would be really exciting for me. Like something big enough to like really institute some sort of like wide scale change in the game, like being able to like pick the light or the dark. That would be cool. Like that would really get me off. But whether or not that's something Destiny would do, I don't know if it's too daring I don't know. I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, I'm going to leave my comment on that particular point to a bit later in the show because I did ask a particular question of a Bungie dev along those lines that was a little revealing, but we'll get to that. So, yeah. Matt, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, like, because Destiny 2 is my game because as far as what I was going to talk about in this week in gaming, because I've played plenty of stuff at PAX, but Destiny was the thing that I was playing before I left. And I hadn't talked about the fact that I finished the campaign yet. And like, I'm basically polar opposites to Adrian on this because I fucking love Destiny's story. And for me, Shadowkeep's like narrative setup is really fucking exciting because the stuff they do in this is stuff that I wasn't expecting them to do until Destiny 3, basically.
Yeah.
Like it is the big bad that we have heard talked about over and over again since Destiny 1, showing its face in a really familiar format that when I finished off that story, I was sitting here spamming F12 and taking a whole crap ton of screenshots because it was fucking exciting and like, yeah, like super quotable as well. Like,
yeah,
you know,
see that I think that was lost on me, and I think maybe that's a failing of it for new players. Like,
yes,
if anyone jumps on board with New Light, blasts through the story campaign and Forsaken, and finishes Shadowkeep, like that's going to be lost on them because it's not mentioned anywhere along the way. Like, it's not. If it is meant to be the big bad, and it's meant to be that significant, the way that the expansion ends is literally with like a fizzle. If you don't have that information beforehand, well, as if it was laid out enough, then maybe it would. Like maybe it's just an issue of the fact that like it is a bit of an homage for long-time fans, but for me, it's just kind of meh. So I guess
I don't think that's actually necessarily 100% true because if you were a brand new player and you played through the base Destiny 2 storyline, then those, and okay, this is spoiler territory, you're probably going to like tap out for like 5 minutes if you're listening right now. But like, if you play the base story,
the Red War campaign,
you will see those pyramid ships at the very end, right? Like you see that thing happen and you're like, okay, this is something big and important. And then they show up in Shadowkeep. As a Destiny 1 player and as a lore fan, you know that they're related to the darkness, and you know that we haven't had the darkness talked about much in Destiny 2. Like, quite literally, they reworded things in a lot of ways from Destiny 1. And this all ties back into that whole thing of choosing between light and dark, because I think that's exactly what's going to happen in future. Because, yeah, like, now dark is not being like shown in such a negative light, and a lot of the lore entries that are popping up as part of Shadowkeep seem to be saying that as well. But you're not wrong at all that if you were a brand new player, you wouldn't care as much as a Destiny 1 fan that was also a lore nerd. And I think that's perfectly fine. I think it's just one of those things where like Bungie's always really sucked at making their most important narrative stuff a part of their game, and they've actually improved on that a lot in Destiny, especially Destiny 2. Destiny 1 actually, no, was terrible, but Destiny 2 has been better. Like, Forsaken actually made it feel like you were a part of a larger story that was going on that was important, and Shadowkeep, I think, has continued with that theme in a really big way. But ever since Forsaken, like, the whole way it was delivered was always bringing into question, like, were we making the right decisions? Were we actually falling to the dark side through our actions in avenging Cade? Like, what is the line between light and dark? Because Destiny 1, like, that question never arose. And in a lot of ways, it was like you were basically, you were an evangelist for the Church of the Traveler, essentially. And so there was never any question about what you were doing. Whereas Destiny 2 is all about that because the world is a darker place since Cade died.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. See, now I'm getting into... Yeah, I'm getting into lore nerd stuff now. But, like, bottom line is, I entirely see where you're coming from, Adrian. But definitely as a fan, I really fucking enjoy it. So
I'll interject just for a sec because I'm going to say I actually 100% agree with Adrian in this particular respect because I love the Destiny lore. I agree that the stuff around the light and the darkness is super compelling and it's a really excellent part of the lore. And I know a lot more about it perhaps than the average person who has just gotten into the game recently. But in terms of Adrian's point for new players, like understanding the context around that, and yes, there is the small cutscene around the pyramid ships that you get at the end of the Red War campaign, which new players can still go back and play. But there is no context around that scene. Like you don't get any commentary about what it is at all. I think all of the links that you're required to make to the references of the light and the darkness are pretty much non-existent unless you start reading deep into some of the the individual sort of entries that kick off throughout the rest of Destiny 2. And there is a big gap in terms of what new players would understand versus people who've played D1. So I totally agree with Adrian in that respect.
I mean, for me, it just boils down to a very simple formula, or whatever the appropriate term is that like I've watched several hours, I'm not exaggerating, several hours of YouTube videos explaining Destiny lore. And even that has only given me like a few puzzle pieces to dissect what happens in the game with any real meaning. If I have to go and invest time watching those videos and I barely care about the lore, like how do they expect people to give a shit about it who are only playing the game, people that are only playing the game? And even in that huge amount of lore that I've watched, it still didn't help me appreciate the events of Shadowkeep very well. So, I mean, and they're allowed to make an expansion that's mainly for the hardcore fans. They can do whatever they want. That's fair enough. But it's not a matter of right or wrong. It's just a fact that new players just won't know and probably won't care at the end of it. They'll just be like, "Oh yeah, that was fine." Like that's the response they'll get. If they're looking at cultivating long-term fans, I don't know if Shadowkeep is the best hook for that. Not that it was necessarily meant to be, but yeah, I just think bottom line is that if it's not in the game, if the lore is not in the game, how do they expect people to like really digest it?
Yeah, I think it's actually a difficulty of the games as a service model.
Oh, totally.
Simply because like to care about that lore, you need to go back and play Destiny 1.
World of Warcraft's exactly the same.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
I did. I played Destiny 1 and I still don't care. Like, because the lore was even more indecipherable in Destiny 1 than it is now. I played all of Destiny 1 and I did lots of Destiny 1 content. And the problem was even worse then. I remember talking with Christian about Destiny 1 where it's like, we would joke that like the lore in Destiny is like, and everyone made that joke about how there's no story in Destiny, like there is no lore, and like giving us a bunch of in-game text to read is not world building. Like you could say that's world building, but it's kind of like the argument in language where like people like to say like, oh, that's bad grammar, but if it's what is currently in use, then there is grammar. So like if you can say that no that's not where they're telling the story, it's over here. It's like, well, no, sorry, if my experience is there, then the story should be there. It shouldn't be somewhere else. And I think that continues to be an issue with Destiny, like all the way into Destiny 2. You still need to invest time and energy in other places to understand the story of the game properly, which I don't think is very effective, and I don't think it's very engaging. And I think if Destiny wasn't riding so hard on its gunplay, I don't think it would be successful in that way.
Yeah, it's probably fair.
Yeah. No, I entirely agree with everything you just said. Like, I don't think Shadowkeep's not an expansion that was made for the hardcore Destiny fans, nor was it an expansion that was made to get new people on board. It was just an expansion.
Yeah, fair enough.
And it's like, the difficulty they're going to be facing is like, how the fuck do we get everybody up to speed on the ridiculous amount of lore that there is?
I was going to say this a second ago. I think what they're going to do is they're going to keep assembling pieces on either side of the puzzle. They're going to keep pushing the story forward, which for new players is going to be, their onboarding point, because they'll be able to sort of latch on to the events as they occur. But they're also going to continue to fill in the gap in understanding between what was and what is. So yeah. If they straddle both sides, eventually I think it'll start to connect a bit. Yeah. Like,
the one thing I did notice with Shadowkeep was they do a lot of like, oh, it's that guy. Do you remember how we killed him back in the day? Like, it's very clearly doing callbacks to kind of give you like reference points for Like, if you're a brand new player, you will understand a little bit about who these characters were, even though you'd never played Destiny 1. And I think just narratively, like, as a game developer, I don't know how you solve that problem. I really don't know how you solve the problem of getting everybody on board to care about Destiny's lore in its current state without expecting them to put in hundreds of hours worth of gameplay or watching lore videos. I really don't know how you solve that.
I mean, I think I agree, and I think it is an unsolvable problem, and it purely comes down to the tone of Destiny, because the tone that they're crafting a fantasy universe, and they're crafting mythology, and the way that they've chosen to do that just makes it hard to relate to. Like, you can't, like, I understand that they're trying to create like an eons old mythology that goes back thousands of years, and we're talking about ancient history a lot in Destiny 2, and you can't really introduce that without having an issue of how do you make it relatable to people. Like, and in that sense, the game, should be commended, and I do think the lore is good. I just think it's not communicated very efficiently. Like, it's not communicated to the player very well.
Reminds me of a lot of hobbies where, like, when you have a long-running sort of game narrative over many, many releases or many, many years, eventually I think they hit this problem. And honestly, it reminds me a lot of the tabletop miniature games we used to play, a lot more. Talking about Warhammer and Warhammer 40,000 and that kind of stuff. Like, some of the lore content and the world-building stuff in those games is indecipherable to new players. Like, it's a real tough barrier to entry, and it only takes a long time to sort of get your head around it. So, yeah.
I agree with a key point of difference, and it's purely from a language perspective, is that let's take Warhammer as an example. If you look at Warhammer, all the information that's presented to you, the register of language that's used is English, is presented sort of factually, while as the information in Destiny, it's presented sort of ye old style. It's presented in that fantasy style of writing. It's not presented to you as in, like, this is what happened, and then at this date this happened, and then this happened. It's presented in that Dark Souls kind of way.
Some of it, not all of it.
Some of it.
Yeah.
But
not enough of it is presented in a way that makes it decipherable.
Definitely.
That's the problem.
The whole point of it is that, like, events are so far gone that it's now myth.
Like, well, that's right.
And you're entirely right. I would entirely agree that,
anyway,
like, at least half of the lore entries are written that way. So
that's a whole bunch on Destiny, which I think this is a really interesting continuing discussion. Every week when we chat about this, I think this gets more and more fascinating. But anyway,
we need a Destiny episode. Episode 200 Destiny episode right now.
Well, look, we probably should do it.
Christian is just like fist pumping that he's not here for this whole. I guarantee he's like, thank Christ.
Anyway, I'm not going to mention any Destiny stuff in terms of what I've played, with the exception that I find it very hard to be critical of the game at the moment because of how fucking addicted to it I am. So I completely agree with everything you're saying, and yet feel none of that myself because of how much fun I'm having. So I can kind of stand on both sides. But I took my laptop with me.
As long as you're self-aware.
Yeah, no, I am. I know how addicted I am. I took my laptop with me to Melbourne and did get some strikes in while I was there. That's how bad I was jonesing.
He's so addicted he put in more time with Destiny in Melbourne than I did, because I put in 0 hours and he put in several.
Yeah, well, it was probably only about 3 hours in the end, but still, that's a lot when you're traveling. So
anyway, moving on.
Yeah, moving on. The only other thing I wanted to chat about is I actually played some Zelda stuff on the travel. So I don't know if you remember, but earlier in the year when we were chatting about our pile of shame and sort of games that we had on our big list to knock off. One of mine was Ocarina of Time, because I'd never actually finished Ocarina. And I did play it part way through earlier in the year. Like, I think I probably got about a quarter of the way through from what I understand. And I'm playing on my DS XL. And I thought, instead of cracking the Switch out on the plane, I'll play a bit more Ocarina. But I also had my cartridge in my Switch case for Link Between Worlds, which is the more modern Zelda DS game, which I had also started and played about the same amount, like a few years back when it first came out. And I was really umming and ahhing between both games as to which one I wanted to load up and play. And in the end, I settled on Link Between Worlds. And I kind of am glad that I did, because this might be a slightly controversial statement to any Ocarina fans out there, but and obviously this may change as I play more of those games, but Link Between Worlds to me just seems better in almost every aspect. it's just the story I find more compelling, the gameplay is more compelling. The controls are more modern. Everything just is really good. Like this game is amazing. Like it's probably one of my favorite Zelda games actually. If people love Legend of Zelda franchise and haven't played Link Between Worlds, you really are doing yourself a disservice because it is a phenomenally cool game. One of the core mechanics is that you can literally turn yourself into a painting and sort of run along walls as like a flat object, which gives you huge amounts of sort of puzzle related stuff that you can navigate when you're playing that game, sort of squeezing around tight corners and gaps and that sort of stuff. It makes it really fun. So and it's a slightly different narrative to most of the other Zelda games too. It's not the typical sort of, go to the center, beat Ganon, get the Master Sword, rescue the princess kind of narrative. It's one of those kind of off the beaten track ones. So I'm enjoying the hell out of it again, and I'll probably play more next week when I travel again. So yeah, that's my little non-Destiny news for the week in terms of games. So
cool.
But anyway,
thank God some non-Destiny news.
Yeah, I know. Let's chat some more.
I vow from this moment on to never talk about Destiny again on the podcast. I make that promise to our listeners.
I don't.
Well, I can't be complicit in that. So
no, fair enough. Anyway, let's talk some other non-Destiny stuff.
Now it's time to hear some gaming news. Time for some gaming news.
All right, so news topics for this week. We obviously missed a bit of stuff while we were away, and we're not going to sort of rehash everything that's several weeks old by this point, but there is one story that we absolutely can't ignore because while Matt and I were at PAX in particular, this was fucking blowing up, and we copped a fair bit of the commentary from various people who were there because obviously you're at a place full of gamers. Everyone's going to be talking about one of the biggest stories on the internet at that particular time, and that, of course, is the Blizzard meltdown around the protest that one of their pro Hearthstone players made, sort of supporting the uprising in Hong Kong. Now, I don't want to go through a play-by-play of what happened because anybody who's listening should probably just go and search out that themselves. But the very, very brief summary is that there was a tournament that took place where a player by the name of Ningwai, or Chung Ningwai, also known as Blitzchung, basically made a protest during his acceptance speech of winning the tournament. And he got basically penalised by Blizzard as well as the two casters that were with him for that event occurring. And he had his prize money stripped from him, and bans were handed out and all this sort of stuff.
Just to clarify, the commenters were also penalised, not the commenters penalised him also.
Yes, absolutely. So now since that happened, there's been a huge uprising. There's been left, right and center, players threatening to boycott Blizzard. A lot of people deleting their accounts, deleting Battle.net, protests being organized. There's been some pretty high profile Hearthstone casters that have actually stepped away from casting the game. One in particular is Brian Kibler, who's a very, very well-known sort of Magic the Gathering commentator and tournament winner. Of years past. He's been sort of, a professional card game player for the odd 20 years or so. He's a very, very well-known name. And he's said that he's not going to cast Hearthstone Grandmaster tournaments anymore, which is kind of like the official sort of Hearthstone circuit, because he doesn't want to be complicit in Blizzard's sort of response. Another one, Nathan Zamora, also known as That's Admirable, another pretty well-known caster on the circuit, who's also stepped away for similar reasons. There's been a few that have sort of said that they're not going to step away from casting because, while they disagree with what's going on, they, still respect that Blizzard makes the final call. And obviously, there are a lot of people that can't afford to step away and lose part of their livelihood. So, hopefully fans out there will respect that because not everybody can do that. But the whole thing's just a massive mess. And the most recent thing that has dropped news-wise is that there was a Overwatch launch event happening for Switch, which was scheduled to take place, I think it was today, at the Nintendo store in New York City. And there was an announcement tweeted out from the Nintendo New York City Twitter account basically saying that that event was now cancelled, and apologies for any inconvenience this may cause. But Blizzard hasn't given any reason. Nintendo hasn't given any reason for the event's cancellation. But I mean, you can only speculate. This is a direct sort of tie into what's been going on. They don't want that event to be like a catalyst for more protests. They don't want Nintendo staff to have to deal with it. There was a whole bunch of Overwatch voice actors that were going to be present as well, and obviously they're not in a great position to kind of respond officially or deal with it or anything like that. So it probably makes sense that they cancelled the event. But it's just not yet another thing in this long line of PR disasters that Blizzard's been facing as a result of what's been going on. They did actually release an official statement that was listed as penned by J. Allen Brack, who's the current, I don't know if he's listed as CEO or executive manager of the company. I know the role's changed a little bit since Mike Morhaime left. But basically sort of, reiterating Blizzard's position on what happened. And yes, we haven't forgotten about our core values and, we're going to reduce the penalties a little bit and this, that, and the other. That statement's been met with, a lot of criticism sort of around the world as well, as being that they're still kowtowing to China and not sort of separating their values from their business interests and all this sort of stuff. The whole thing's just a massive disaster. So, yeah, do you guys have any sort of additional thoughts about the broad brushstrokes of that? Do you think that Blizzard's actually done the right thing? Do you think that I don't know? What do you think? I don't want to put words in your mouths.
It's a can of worms. Sorry, mate, I'll go first. It's a hard can of worms because, on a personal level, I agree with protesting. I agree with the Hong Kong movement. I agree with the whole free Hong Kong sentiment. And I agree with the person's right to protest. But I'm also pragmatic enough to recognize that, like, if you accept, an offer from an organization, you do have to follow the rules that they put in place. And if Blizzard wants to say you're not allowed to protest on this platform that is ours, then they have the right to do that. The question for me is whether or not they ever said that someone has or doesn't have the right to do that.
Yeah, their rules were pretty grey.
Yeah, and in that case, then, I think, I don't know, it's kind of like, as an interpreter, I have, ethics that I need to abide by. And sometimes it's kind of like duty of care is like a quick, wanky way to talk about it. But, your duty of care often trumps a lot of situations, a lot of ethical situations you might be put in. I guess in this situation, it comes down to how do you individually feel about it? Do you feel that the events that are happening in Hong Kong warrant this kind of public speech? And if so, do you then agree with the sentiment of the protester and disagree with Blizzard? Or do those events not matter to you as much and, the right of the organization who owns the platform are more important than the individual's free speech? For me, it's a personal decision, and where you land depends on where you're invested. For me personally, I'm invested on the Hong Kong side and the right to protest, and I think it was terrible what happened to that player, and I think they should have been given all their money back. But that's, an emotional response that doesn't always fly with people, so that's where I stand on it.
To be clear, I think they have actually had confirmed that they are going to get their prize money back. So they're still being suspended for 6 months, though, so... Yeah.
Okay.
Apparently all of it's going back, but they're being suspended for 6 months, which I think is actually more in line with what the rules actually state.
Yeah, okay.
And part of the reason why everybody was so pissed off was the fact that, like, the response was so extreme, essentially.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, my personal opinion, like, it feels like this is a little bit of history in the making that we're not going to forget about anytime soon. Like, there's comparisons here that you can kind of make to the thing that's been happening in the United States for the longest time now with athletes taking a knee during the national anthem. Or like the one that or the 1968 Olympics and the black glove event thing that happened. Like it kind of reminds me a lot of that, where people are using their platform for peaceful protest to make a statement. And the response has been much the same in every one of those examples, where the platform in which they were using to make said statement has not appreciated the fact that the statement's been made. But I, very much stand with the right to protest in these cases. And, like, if you do that and there are rules against it, then you should fully expect to get hit by those rules. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the rules are not unfair, right? or that you shouldn't take a stand against those rules. So yeah, I total solidarity with the protester in this case.
Yeah. It's interesting given the commentary in the recent year around whether games can be separated from politics or not, and certain game developers turning around and saying our game's not political. I think everybody needs to realize that video games are fucking political. You cannot separate the two, because anytime you are engaging an audience, anytime you're providing or creating a platform for communication of a sort to be disseminated amongst a player base, that is a platform that can be used for political purposes, and politics are as grey as ever these days. It can be small, it can be huge. But especially when it comes to live events, you cannot stop everything from slipping through. It's gonna happen. Like, people see an audience that they can engage to influence in some way or another, and they will go for it. Stopping it is almost impossible. It's like trying to plug every hole in the dam with your fingers. You're going to run out of fingers eventually, and it's just going to erupt. So I think the key in this case is that it's all about risk management, and image is everything when it comes to how companies deal with this sort of stuff. Blizzard really fucked up in this case with the way they handled it, I think, more than anything. So ultimately, were they going to have to, take action to sort of, keep their business interests intact and ensure that the players, don't transgress in that particular way in future? Then, yeah, probably. But the way they turned around and did it, and, now they've shown their hand in terms of where their priorities lie to the general public, it's done them absolutely no favors. And their follow-up responses, just further doubled down on that in a bad way. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But BlizzCon is coming up real soon, so we will see how this plays out.
It's going to be interesting with BlizzCon, but it does really feel like their reaction was knee-jerk and went to the most extreme response, and now that's biting them in the ass, basically.
Yeah.
Like, if it had been a 6-month suspension instead from the very get-go, I don't think we'd still be talking about this right now.
No, absolutely not. No, but I mean, with all the Diablo controversy from last year and the Activision stuff over the year, and Heroes of the Storms, big changes with the team being pulled off that, as well as now this. I think BlizzCon this year is feeling a bit like a powder keg, getting ready to explode. So I think they're going to have to pull out some pretty impressive stuff to keep the attention focused on their games.
I hope it explodes.
Yeah,
I hope something horrible happens purely because of Schadenfreude. I just hope it.
Yeah. Not to people individually, but more to the company to sort of wake people up as to.
Fuck them.
Wow. Okay.
No. Obviously, I don't want anyone to get hurt, but I like a bit of chaos.
Yeah.
I like a bit of social unrest. So
I'd never have guessed.
Well, sometimes a bit of chaos can be a good instigator for positive change, so you just never know.
Yeah.
Oh, there doesn't need to be positive change. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, man. Well, I'm sure there'll be riots of some sort. So, anyway.
Yeah, speaking of riots, we have some news coming out of Riot Games. So, for those unfamiliar, and this includes me because I had to read up on the topic, Riot Games is the studio most famous for developing League of Legends.
Mm-hmm.
And they have they've recently celebrated their 10th anniversary, and they have sort of a live streamed sort of news announcement that they regularly do, led by Joe Tung, also known as New 0001.
And a name that I recognise instantly.
Yeah, right.
Yes, that guy.
Yeah, that new guy. And so he went on stream and announced a whole bunch of new things coming out for Riot Games, which is pretty cool. Even cooler if you're invested in Riot Games, which I am not. So I'm sure this will make a lot more sense to some of our listeners, more sense than it would to me. They're working on an animated show called Arcane, so that's interesting. So any kind of well-produced anime has potential to engage new people into the franchise, so that'd be good.
I hope that it has a kick-ass soundtrack that makes it to Beat Saber. That's my investment, just like the KDA song that already did. So yeah.
There's talk of a first-person shooter called Project A, so that's interesting. I mean, because it's coming from League of Legends, I wonder if it'll be like a character-based shooter, with competitive team play, similar to Overwatch or something like that. Could be potential there. There's a card game called Legends of Runeterra coming out. Although when I first read it, I thought it said Runeterra, which I thought was a very strange name to give a game. But yeah, I mean, more card games are always good. It's more welcome.
Runeterra is like when you take a sprint across a grassy field and split your pants. So
yes, that is what it is, Luke.
Mhm.
Let's edit that part out.
See,
Wait.
the thing that came to my mind was like it was going to be a Hamtaro trading card game.
That's way better. Legends of Hamtaro. Can we please have that game? Legends of Hamtaro. Oh, I'd play the shit out of that. Yes. All right. Change of news topic, guys. League of Legends is dead. Let's not worry about that anymore. The real news coming out this week, not from Riot Games, but from Game Dad Games, is Legends of Hamtaro. Hamtaro, a competitive card game where you spend a currency known as pellets to play cards on the board.
those Hamtaro pellets, yo.
Yes. Oh, I love me some Hamtaro pellets.
Oh god.
There was one last thing, which is a sneak peek of something Riot Games are calling Project F, which is some sort of dungeon crawling game that you play with other people. So I don't know whether that's going to be some kind of Diablo-ish kind of setup or what.
Could be. Yeah, I mean, the characters seem well suited to that sort of thing. So
yeah, I don't know. It looks to me like Riot have gone, hey guys, we're currently really good at this one thing. How about we like branch out and be good at all the things and make all the games? So, and if they've got the creative capacity and the money to back it, then yeah, why not? Let's see some new stuff.
I think it's also risk management as well. Like, they don't want to tie their entire fortunes to one title and franchise. Like, it's, spreading themselves a bit more can kind of insulate them, in the future to massive changes. I mean, you've seen what's happened with, Fortnite's sudden explosion of popularity and what that did to, say, PUBG, almost overnight. This kind of thing can happen. And, League is worth a lot of money, so you just never know when that, star is going to wax and wane. So, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. A lot of this kind of like, a lot of the types of games they're working on and such, it really does feel like they've gone, Blizzard did all this stuff. Surely we could do it too. And now Blizzard's currently going through this shit, and it's like the perfect time to go out and basically say like, hey guys, you know that meme where it's like friendship ended with X, now my best friend is Y? Like, you should end your friendships with Blizzard because now Riot's your best friend.
Yeah. Come and play League of Hamsters. It's way better.
League of Hamsters, yeah.
Oh, no.
I don't know who has the Hamtaro license, but contact me.
Yeah. Get in touch. Produced by Party Loaded. Developed by Game Dad.
Perfect. Let's go.
Legends of Hamtaro. Here we come. I'm gonna draft up some art, some cover art for our game. I'll send it to you guys.
Yep.
If it's not done in MS Paint, I'm going to be very disappointed.
It's totally going to be done in MS Paint.
Fantastic. I love our art direction.
Perfect. Yep.
Oh my god. Okay. Well, speaking of Australian-made games, so Chorus is a thing. So if you've not heard of Summerfall Studios, they're very, very recently just becoming a thing that has Liam Esler on it, who is an Australian indie dev, working with David Gator, who was a ex-BioWare writer. And so they're working on this game called Chorus, which looks gorgeous. Like, it's all this painterly kind of art style. But I love the freaking description of it, and they released a gameplay video for it just recently. And basically, I'm going to be dropping like a couple of $100 on this because it's on Fig right now for funding. But let me read out the description for you. Chorus is an adventure musical, one part narrative-driven adventure and one part interactive musical, written by former BioWare lead writer David Gator, scored by award-winning composer Austin Wintry, voice-directed by acclaimed actor and director Troy Baker, and starring the extremely talented Laura Bailey. I am so sold.
Oh yeah,
like,
shit yeah.
The gameplay basically, like, the gameplay they showed has the main character kind of like going through what is pretty clear like a Minotaur's labyrinth. And then the Minotaur turns up and starts talking to her. And then the Minotaur breaks out into song. And you get the choice to like respond to it as you would in any sort of narrative adventure game. But you sing your response in reply. And it's fucking amazing. I love it.
Nice.
Like, it is such a cool idea.
It's made me wonder why it's taken so long for the musical genre, like in terms of like musicals, to actually hit video games. It seems like such an obvious opportunity now. So
I think mostly because like writing a narrative game is hard, but imagine writing a narrative game where all your dialogue options and the emotions around those things have to be musical, that would be fucking hard.
Joss Whedon could do it. Anyway.
Well, clearly David Gator is very, very confident that he can do it too. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm super looking forward to this. So I'd very, very much suggest go and back it on Kickstarter. As of the time of recording, it's still got 24 days left on it, and it's like a quarter of the way through. So it looks like it's going to be very, very likely to get fully funded.
Yeah. So, Adrian, do you understand now why we thought it might be up your alley?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I love, for those playing at home, I love musicals. I'm a musical geek. I've been in musicals. I've interpreted musicals. I live and breathe musicals. So, yeah, I mean, in saying that, it might make me very, very cynical and critical of it. So it'll be interesting to see when I get around to playing it, what I actually think about it. Because if I'm comparing it to some of the great, the great musicals of our time, who knows how I actually feel.
So it's worth noting, like, the actual narrative for it is basically all about how somebody dies in the main character's apartment, and then she gets kind of tied up in all of these gods, and you can romance them because of course you can. Yeah, it sounds so good. I'm seriously down for it, but I can totally see, Adrian, why you'd be like, oh yeah, I might love it if they do a good job. Because I could totally see, like, if they did the musical thing badly, that would suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's face facts. It'll live or die on the strength of its music, or the strength of the songs. So if they're not good songs, then, we'll see how we go.
Yeah. Well,
absolutely,
it's the same as any musical heavy game, like a beat sort of rhythm game. It's the same thing. Like, if their music's not good, then totally people won't play it. So, yeah. 100% agree. All right, well, anyway, let's kick it into a different kind of beat, and we're going to chat about this week's major topic, which, of course, is our journey and experiences at PAX Australia 2019. So,
yay, okay, see you guys. Bye.
Now, Adrian, you have to play a very important role during this segment, and essentially, kick in to interview us on anything that strikes your fancy and captures your attention. So I'm sure there'll be the odd thing that you want to ask about. So, oh shit. I've just been talking to you this whole time, you mother. All right. Adrian, ask us questions if sounds interesting. That's what I said. All right.
Oh, okay, cool.
All right. Anyway, so we'll break this into sort of, I guess, three main parts. We'll chat about some of the pre-PAX stuff because we did some fun events and things before the actual con. And then we'll chat about the actual games that we played at PAX, and then we'll chat about some of the extra sort of stuff around the orbit of the event, which was of interest as well. So, yeah, Matt, do you want to kick us off? What did you think about GCAP this year, which we both attended, and me for the first time? So, yeah, what is GCAP?
I will explain GCAP, but I'm actually very interested to hear your opinion, because for me, like, GCAP is something that I go to every single year, so I kind of know what to expect.
Yeah.
But for you, like, being brand new to the event, I'm very keen on hearing your opinion. But basically, GCAP stands for Games Connect Asia Pacific. Which is essentially a game developer facing conference where you get a whole bunch of game developers together in one place, and you get speakers to present information and knowledge and things that they've learned and advice that they're giving, and interesting topics for discussion. So, like, one of my favorite talks that we both went to, I believe, was about genre and how genre is currently kind of failing us in a big way.
Yeah.
I forget what game they pointed out. Like, oh no, it's Untitled Goose Game is in the same genre as Doom 2016, which is really fucking funny. And, like, I'm now wondering what genre that is. Is it horror?
I've also got to point out that I did not attend a single presentation at this event that did not reference, at least in passing, the Untitled Goose fucking game. So,
well, of course, it had to. You had to.
It became such a meme. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, so it's all of these game developer talks. I did my talk, which was all about doing production if you're in a small indie studio, which, according to Luke, went fairly well. I've had people asking me for parental guidance on Twitter now, which is just great.
Yay, Game Dad.
I sound really sarcastic, but it is actually really great. Like, people are drawing me pictures, and it's freaking hilarious.
Oh.
Yeah, so yeah, GCAP's really, really good. Around that, you also have the Australian Game Developer Awards, but neither of us went to that this year.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously there was a different thing we were going to instead, but we'll get to that after But well, yeah, Luke, what were your first impressions of GCAP? Like, what did you take away from it?
So, I mean, I'll just say up front that I had some pretty set expectations as to what the event was going to be like before I went, and my expectations was bang on. It was exactly what I thought it was going to be, which is good because it's exactly what I wanted. So, which was a whole bunch of really creative, eye-opening talks about things that people know about and are passionate about, and have something to say on. And I think with the exception of one presentation that you and I both saw towards the end, which was a bit of a sleeper, the rest of them were really sort of, interesting and thought-provoking. And, from a perspective now where I'm sort of, working back in the video games industry, and, these talks now have a different layer of relevance to me that they might have been as just a consumer. I got something out of just about everything I attended. And I did say this to you, and I will say it again, and I'm not too ashamed to say that the most interesting and best put together talk of the entire week was your one. So I enjoyed the shit out of that. You did an awesome job presenting it. So big ups to you, man. I think you absolutely killed it. So I'm very happy to say that. Yeah.
I didn't like it.
Yeah, no, it was great. So Matt did a chat about production for small indies, and it was extremely amusing as well. You crammed memes galore into every fucking slide in that presentation, and not 100% of them hit, but the ones that needed to did. So it was real good. So, but yeah,
I think I did a good job when I've been getting quoted by people on Twitter, because I think the one that really kind of stuck with people was I had put the slide up of like that working space with all the bean bags and everything, and I basically said studio culture is not something you can sit on.
Yeah.
Which got a laugh, and also, as I say, quotable. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's some other good ones. I won't list them all. There was a really fascinating one I went to that was presented by Anna Brandberg, who has just picked up a new role working with King on Candy Crush Saga, actually. And she was doing a presentation on rapid prototyping and sort of, going through that process when it came to UX controls. So, she actually live on stage kind of put together like a mock-up of some basic interactive menu windows in a game like Candy Crush, and sort of went through the design process of putting them together quickly just for testing purposes. And some of the apps that she used and the different sort of, creative, ways that she went about it was just super cool to see live on stage. So I love that kind of stuff. I think it's really interesting. But yeah, no, tons of really, really good presentations. So enjoyed the hell out of that. It was interesting to see the politics at play as well.
So here's the fun thing about the game development industry, especially in Australia, is that everybody knows everybody else, and not everybody likes everybody else. And so there's a ton of politics.
Surprise.
But it did hatch a really great meme between the two of us during that week.
We should probably explain this now. Yeah. So there's a bunch of things that happened during the week that, were not great for whatever reason. And Matt and I got into a conversation about whether these things were caused by people just being totally ignorant, or whether it was actually real malice involved, because it's like that old saying that, don't attribute to malice that which can be attributed to ignorance. Give people the benefit of the doubt, sometimes. And any time that we saw something during the week that was, remotely sus or questionable or not great, such as the discussion around the Blizzard stuff, pretty much the call of the week was ignorance or malice. We were grading them as we went. So,
we just kind of lean towards each other and go malice.
Yep, absolutely. It was a great meme for the week. So yeah.
You were going to ask something, Adrian?
What was I going to say? No, I can't remember. It's gone.
Matt,
rip.
Ignorance.
It's gone forever.
Ignorance. So, Are you sure? It's Adrian.
No, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay.
On this occasion, ask me again later. Yeah.
Oh, you were saying that some people don't like each other. All I was going to say is that some people on the same podcast don't even like each other.
Oh.
All right, that's malice.
Oh.
That's all it was.
Yeah.
Constructive as usual from Adrian.
Good work. All right.
Yep.
So I guess then when we'll briefly chat about the Child's Play charity trivia quiz night, which we went to again, Matt's second time, I think it was the fourth or fifth, I can't remember. So yeah, that went awesome as ever, and our good friends of the Sons of Arcadia actually won the night. Dinny, who's a regular listener to our show and has submitted games in the past for our Party Game of the Month segment. They kicked ass. They were the Untitled Goose team, and they won the night, which was...
There was two teams that were Untitled Goose team.
It was ridiculous. So, the Untitled Goose games won friggin' everything in the last week, so it was not surprising. So, yeah. But that was good. They ended up announcing that as of this year, they've now raised $40,000 for Child's Play charity through this event. So massive achievement, and congrats to Ewan and Owen, who put the night together. Ewan, who's been on the show before to chat about managing quizzes a while back. So yeah, good job for those guys. It was really fun. But and then we had probably one of our most anticipated events, which Matt, it was your friend Morgan that put this together initially, wasn't it?
It was Morgan, yeah. It was Morgan that kind of came up with the idea. And then Morgan pulled Damon and myself into it because we were discussing it, like, that's a freaking great idea. And then it just kind of exploded from there. So I got you and Mitch from Pixel Sift involved. And then you were like, what if we invited people from the community that work at Bungie along? So basically, we did this thing called breakfastiny? Breakfastiny? I don't know how we pronounced it.
Don't overthink it.
But it's basically a Destiny lore breakfast, just to kind of like discuss Destiny lore because we're all fucking nerds. And yeah, so we had Mylan from Mylan Games turn up. He's actually like one of the Destiny lore peeps.
Yeah, Matt's his real name, but people will know him as Mylan more. Yeah,
and he's here in Perth, like, which is fucking cool. He's here in Perth and he works with Kodo Dojo. Which is, really freaking neat.
So he's actually one of the key authors of the recent Destiny lore books that Bungie has released. So, it was fucking awesome to have him along. He also is involved in the Destiny Down Under podcast, which is another show that got involved in some PAX stuff over the weekend, and they basically just talk Destiny exclusively. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was our podcast.
Yeah.
Well, we're trying. Yeah. We're trying very hard, but there's resistance from within.
We're very trying. Anyway, so...
But we did, like... Well, I should say, Luke, you did actually invite along Mola?
Yeah, Mola Gurundana, who's the voice actress of Eris Morn from Shadowkeep. And she very nearly made it too. She was messaging me as she had just touched down the morning that we were having the thing. And she was planning on dropping everything and actually coming out and having breakfast with us, which was fucking awesome. But then she got waylaid by her PR people and couldn't make it in the end. So that was a little disappointing. But we did catch up with her during the event, so that was good. So
from what I was seeing on her Twitter account, like, she was going around and seeing community people all over the place. So like she's very clearly keen on like getting involved with just people that are playing the game and just chatting with them. Yeah. She's super cool,
awesome,
really
lady.
lovely woman.
Massive respect for her. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Pre can mention... Oh, actually, no, we're going to talk about the Destiny panel later on because she said some fucking hilarious stuff during that.
Mm-hmm. And other pre-PAX stuff, that the only other thing I wanted to mention is that there was a tweet during the week which was sent out from the official PAX account, sort of in collaboration with Bethesda, Australia and New Zealand, basically saying that they were giving away some additional tickets to the official Doom Eternal party that was being held just before the event. Now, I think this was originally planned as a Doom Eternal launch party, but of course, Doom Eternal, while we're away, actually got delayed several months to now be releasing on March 20th, which I'm a little disappointed about, but at the end of the day, Doom Eternal is one of those games that I don't want them to, rush out if it means getting it perfect, so totally happy to wait. But anyway, this party was on, and I responded within 20 seconds of the tweet going up because I was very fortunate to be looking at my account when it posted. And they asked, people to fill in this form, and that the first number of people would sort of get free tickets to this event. And I turned around and said, look, I don't know what I have to do to get these tickets. I will literally drink someone's blood if you give them to me. And I won some. So that was cool. So myself and our good friend Simo ended up going to this event. And thankfully, I didn't actually have to follow through and drink any blood because that would have been a little bit uncomfortable. But
would you actually have done that? Would you have drunk like a pint of, let's say, cow's blood?
If it was my blood, probably.
What if it was cow's blood? I've seen people do that on like Survivor, where they have to like, as part of a challenge, drink a pint of blood.
All right, here's the question: would I have to do it at the event, or would I have to do it to actually get in the first place?
No, you got to do it at the event, like at the door.
Okay, if it's at the event,
you're waiting in line. Here's a pint of blood. Drink it, and you can come inside.
Okay, if I hadn't gone in yet, yes, I probably would have. If I had have gone in and spent a little bit of time in the event and then got asked to do it, I wouldn't have, and here's why. The Doom Eternal party was okay. It was not mind-blowingly good. Like, they had some cool props and stuff up. They had some cosplayers. There was one dude who had the full Doomslayer armor on who looked sick. And I posted a couple of photos of that, and they had some Doom-themed food, and the whole place was decked out.
I hope he feels better.
Yeah,
So what
yeah.
you're saying is there's a reason they were giving away tickets on Twitter.
Possibly, yeah. Like, I mean, I know these things are mostly just marketing and PR kind of spin, but the main criticism I have of the party, actually, there's two main criticisms. Number one is that it was mostly just a mixer. There wasn't any events on or any real sort of announcements or commentary. There was nobody sort of emceeing the event. It was kind of just people were, left to sort of mingle and do their own thing. There was free booze and, a whole bunch of it was consumed. I had a good time, but you kind of had to make your own fun to a certain extent. The second reason, and this is the most important one, is they weren't playing the fucking Doom soundtrack. they were playing frickin' Jamiroquai at the Doom Eternal party. Like, they were trying to create an environment of hell on earth, and they succeeded in that respect, but not the way that mattered. So
No, because Jamiroquai, I'm going deeper underground.
oh no, fuck
hell.
that. Come on.
Hell's deeper underground.
Yeah.
It works on many levels.
It's worth noting that the last game that Bethesda released that was held in this place that had a pre-release party was Fallout 76. I'm just going to say it right now.
I'm out. See you guys. Bye.
Fucking curse.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, it was fun, but it definitely wasn't anything, amazing is kind of what I'm getting at. So, but yeah, that was cool. Anyway, so let's talk PAX itself. So let's chat about some of the games we played. What do you want to talk about first, Matt? Because we got in and kicked it off pretty early on the Friday morning and played some stuff before the crowds got too messy. So what do you want to chat about?
Let's talk about the one that we both put some time in on first, because I want to talk about it. Marvel's Avengers. And actually getting to put some time in on that, because it's one of the games that I'm looking forward to, but I'm also a bit nervous about. And I don't think the demo really set that nervousness at ease, but I'm a little bit more confident it's not going to totally suck.
Yeah.
It didn't sell me in the way that Rage 2 had sold me, I'll put it that way. I thoroughly enjoyed it. All the melee characters were great fun. Any sort of character that was ranged, I didn't enjoy so much. And you were actually pretty mixed on it as well, which I was kind of surprised by.
Yeah, certain parts of it. Like, I think the key thing with Marvel's Avengers is that, particularly in the demo sequence that we played, which I think is very similar to what's been shown already at a few events, is there's an opening sort of event where the Avengers are all at an A-Day parade or something, which is, assumed to celebrate their efforts protecting the world or whatever. And the SHIELD hover carrier, which is kind of their base, is moored sort of at the harbour in New York, I think it was. And the bridge that sort of was off to the side, which I'm pretty sure, I don't know New York super well, but I assume it was the Golden Gate Bridge. Does that track correct to you? The major bridge in New York? Yeah. So that basically gets attacked, and there's a whole bunch of mooks on the ground with, high-tech weapons and stuff that, are basically trying to destroy the bridge, and, everybody's fleeing off it and that kind of thing. These guys looked exactly like the Sable International soldiers from Spider-Man. So soldiers with high-tech sort of energy weaponry, essentially. So you basically, you descend on this bridge and you play small sort of, vignettes as each of the different core Avengers in short sequences leading up to like a boss battle, and then the story sort of cinematic kicks on from there. Now, my issue with the game was that some of the characters were great to play, some of them were nowhere near as good as the others, and I'm sure that impression will change the more time spent with them. And this was very much just a demo, which, I got the impression that there's still some development work happening here, which may change things as time goes on. But for example, like playing as Thor felt amazing. Thor looked like arse. So his face, like his beard in particular, was just a mess of pubes, essentially. It looked real bad. Pixel pubes, exactly. Yeah. Hulk was really cool, actually, though surprisingly the Hulk sequence was more platforming than smashing. So that was unexpected, but I don't know, in a kind of cool way. I enjoyed it. I dug it. The Captain America fight was freaking awesome, though. Like, yeah, that made me feel like I was playing God of War again, like sort of running around smashing the shield through people. It was almost like, it was weird. Like throwing the shield around was a little bit Mjolnir-like, but even kind of more so.
I did like that, like, Cap's shield would return to you automatically, whereas Thor's hammer you'd have to recall, and it makes for some really hilarious moments with Thor's hammer. You could just like hit somebody with it and then just watch them soar into the distance until they literally disappeared.
Yeah.
And then you could recall Mjolnir.
Yeah.
Whereas Cap was like it would just come back to you automatically. So I kind of like that they had that distinguishing kind of feature between the two of them.
Yeah, the physics-based stuff was interesting.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Black Widow was pretty meh. Like, she was okay, but nothing about her sort of playstyle really sort of captured my attention. You do a boss fight between her and Taskmaster, which was a pretty formulaic boss fight. It didn't really capture my imagination or anything. So, yeah. But, I mean, the game was okay. I'm still concerned about aspects of it, though. Like, I think, from what we've heard, like, the end game and the open world aspects of Marvel's Avengers are going to be what really sells me or doesn't sell me on it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Like, The Hulk thing is an interesting point, because I'm pretty sure the reason that the whole thing played that way, that is literally the tutorial section.
Yeah.
And I think of all the sections that you do a gameplay demo of, the tutorial section is not the one you want to do, because tutorials are slow and fucking boring. So I think, like, if they wanted to do the show right, they should have given us a snippet of, like, another mission in the game to play through.
Yeah.
Where we could just, like, lock in on one character, like make us just play as Thor, or have us give us the ability to swap between a couple of characters for that, but don't make us go through the tutorial.
Yeah. So, assuming that Adrian is still here and just silently in the background, do you have any interest in Marvel's Avengers, like especially after what we've just said? So, no, he's
dead.
Literally dead. All right, cool.
He's gone. He's left us forever.
All right. Well, anyway, I'm going to jump in and chat about the other game that I played first up next, which was I actually got to crack into the Final Fantasy VII remake. So they had a playable demo at the event, and it was very much the same sequence that we saw. I think it was at E3 earlier in the year, where Cloud and Barrett sort of run in to the big sort of industrial complex and fight the Scorpion tank. And I was a little tentative about how this game was going to go with the new style combat system, like it not being the traditional turn-based stuff. It's very much like a live combat system, a bit more similar to what you'd imagine in like a DMC game sort of thing, but mixed with the turn-based stuff. Like you've actually got a gauge, I think it's called the ATB bar, that fills up as you sort of generate hits, and then you can use that to activate your spells and your special attacks and that kind of stuff. I can confidently say now, after playing the demo, that game fucking rules, and I cannot wait for it to come out. It was so good. Matt, it was amazingly good. So...
that's good. I'm not going to play.
Fair enough.
Not because I hate Final Fantasy or anything like that, but just because I'm just not a Final Fantasy dude.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I think, I mean, it's one of those games that you would think would double down on its nostalgia sort of appeal and get people who'd played the original back in to experience it again. But honestly, after playing that demo, I really think it's going to appeal to a new audience because of the way that it's a lot more accessible with this new style combat system, because it's very action-packed and it's really fun. So, and knowing the FF7 story like I do, the story is great. Like people... I think will go back to experience it again, and new players will get a lot out of it because it really is a fantastic story. So, yeah.
I'm back.
It is good. Adrian, we're just talking about the Final Fantasy VII remake. You should play it. It's real good. So,
that sounds good.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Sorry, I just had to get Fallout 76 out of my system.
I don't want to ask how you achieve that, but I'm sure.
I took the dog for a walk, did some taxes,
scraped off the mold.
Oh god. That's how we call this. All right, cool. Anyway, that's Final Fantasy VII remake. What else, Matt? Let's.
I played while you were off playing Final Fantasy VII and having a great time. I was playing MediEvil and having a really bad time.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no good.
No, it's not great. Like part of the problem was when I first started it up, like for some reason they had inverted the look controls, which made it feel fucking awful. It was so bad.
No, I always play with inverted controls. That's all you gotta go. That's the way you gotta go.
You're a monster.
Yes, but you're evil.
No, inversion is... All right, that's it. Bye.
Jesus. Not even that controversial.
No, really not. Like, apparently inverted controls
I'm kidding. I wouldn't leave over that.
Okay, sure. Sure you
but
wouldn't.
Inversion is the correct way to play, by the way.
It's the correct way to play flying games. I can agree with that.
No, all games. Every game that involves looking around.
Okay, Adrian. Okay, have a cookie.
It's an inverted cookie. You happy? Turn it upside down.
It's upside down on the plate, then I'll eat it.
Yeah. Nice.
But yeah, no, MediEvil, like, again, tutorial space, slow, boring, like really cramped. Like, surprisingly, you start off in the crypt. There's a nice big area to move within. You leave the crypt and you get out into the world, and suddenly there's just like, oh, it's just this super narrow corridor of fences, and everything's super hilly, so I can't actually see enemies over the other side of things, and it just felt clunky and bad, and like, I remember really enjoying MediEvil back in the day when I was playing it. It just feels like all the magic's been just extruded out of it in a really shitty way.
Yeah.
So I did not have fun with that. Like I didn't even finish the demo. I was basically like, this is making me feel bad. I just quit it and then went.
Is it just Is it just one of those games that doesn't translate well into modern day?
I think like so the thing they've done with the Final Fantasy VII remake, right, is they've made it modern.
Well, they've remade it. Yeah.
They've remade it, right? That's what they needed to do for MediEvil. Like, and it does feel like a lot of it is just, we took the base game, the original, and we've just, like, changed it to look graphically better. And that's a bad idea because, like, gameplay design has improved since the original MediEvil came out, so why not implement some of that stuff?
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, tastes have evolved. You have to account for that too.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, well, let's talk about something that was to our taste then. Now, Matt, you played this early on in the day on Friday, and then we got to play together later on in the weekend. Yep. And I was very smitten by Minecraft Dungeons. So,
game of the show for me.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. Like, I didn't get to put a lot of time in with the PAX Rising games this year, other than chatting with devs. So Minecraft Dungeons was the thing that, like, it was good enough. I went back and I played it a second time. So I really thoroughly enjoy it. I want to say, you know, Diablo, but I think actually Torchlight is the better kind of example.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Because you have a pet in Torchlight, right? And you have a pet in Minecraft Dungeons.
Not all characters did, I don't think, but yeah, you definitely can.
No, they do.
I did
Torchlight, yeah, they do.
Huh. No,
yeah,
I mean,
you
Minecraft.
could like give them. You could give. Oh, Minecraft.
Yeah, in Minecraft, every character did have a pet. Like, it's actually a slot.
Oh, okay, yeah, fair.
Yeah, so like the wizard had the Iron Golem as a pet, which makes sense because it's like a big tanky thing. Whereas the character that I played as was like this big two-handed sword wielding guy, and so he had a wolf as a pet, which is probably like a damage dealing pet. So I fully expect like there's a variety of pets in that game that you can either choose when you're creating a character or equip just because you find them. But like, really interesting because there's no like lock on classes from what I can see. Like, you can change classes by changing gear. So if you use lighter weapons with lighter armor, you become basically like a rogue.
Yeah.
If
I'm
you
not 100%
use
certain about this, but it seemed that way at least. So
it does feel that way. Yeah. Because like I was playing the heavy two-handed guy, and I was like, okay, well, what happens if I go and equip sickles? And it, like, I still attacked super fast. There was nothing telling me I couldn't use those. So I wasn't getting any sort of impression that, you know, there was any sort of class lock or anything like that. But I also didn't see any opportunity to pick up a staff and actually start casting magic at any point.
Right.
So maybe there is a class lock there. But certainly the impression I got was there is none. Which makes sense because you don't choose a class in Minecraft. So
no, that's true. Yeah. It would come down to whether there's a way to trade weapons too, or whether they're unique, and that kind of determines what your abilities are. But I'd be interested to see.
For sure.
Yeah,
definitely.
But as a Diablo-like game, regardless of whether you want to draw a stronger comparison to another game or not, this thing was fucking fun, like super fun, like very action-packed. The difficulty curve was quite steep. It really felt like you had great responsive controls. The enemies were fun to fight. The bosses were really cool and had some technical sides to them. And just running around through the dungeon with a bunch of people was, that was definitely one of my highlights of the show too. I love this game. And Adrian, I want us to play this as a group of 4 because as a 4-player dungeon crawl, that we could definitely stream this. I think it'd be at a hell of a lot of fun. So
yeah. Cool. I mean, I like dungeon crawlers. I was always disappointed that like in Diablo 3 we did manage to get a group of 4 together back in the day, but it didn't last very long, and I was always kind of like, so I'd be keen for that. Sounds good.
Yeah, very cool. All right, so we didn't get to play it because they didn't have it playable on the show floor. They were doing sort of demos throughout the weekend, but there was also a massive 1-hour panel to cover Cyberpunk 2077. So there was a couple of CD Projekt Red sort of devs up on stage that basically went through a guided demo of one of the missions that I think was about, I think they said it was about halfway to a little bit further on throughout the game. So it showcased a couple of characters that had already been advanced quite a bit and showed some of their abilities and things. And multiple times during the demo, they actually switched back and forth between the first one was a netrunner, so more of your sort of techie hacker class, and the other one was what do they call it, Matt? It was a very strength-based class.
A strong solo.
Strong solo, yeah. Okay, so this sort of character, it was a female build they did with massive strength enhancers. She was like ripping open doors and things, not really sort of hacking stuff. She was getting into brawls and a lot more sort of aggressive combat. So you got to see different ways you can approach the mission, because there did seem to be a lot of agency around how you would approach different challenges. You don't have to necessarily go in guns blazing in every situation. You can, stealth around, you can hack stuff, you can, break in using other means. It really looked like they'd thought through thoroughly so that you weren't railroaded into one way of sort of playing, which I appreciated, because for the roleplay elements of this game, that really connects well with me. So it was good. But Matt, what were your impressions of what they showed us for the game in general?
I am excited for it, mostly for the role-playing aspect, but I am a little bit wary of the gunplay, though what they had shown in the live demo seemed better than what I had seen online previously. Because I think the thing that a lot of people were pointing out was there's no recoil. It looks like Fallout weapons. But that seems to be when you're playing the strong heavy. It seems like maybe your strength reduces recoil down to nothing.
Yeah, there could definitely be enhancements that prevent that sort of stuff from affecting you too much. Because that's very much in the theme. Yeah.
Yeah, but whereas the Netrunner, they were using an SMG, and the moment they pulled that trigger, that thing just kicked up like a mule. So yeah, the gunplay is something that I'm concerned about. But even then, Deus Ex, I never played Deus Ex, the most recent ones, for the gunplay, because the guns aren't incredible. It's more of a stealth game when you play it. But if it can kind of nail that, but be more of an RPG, I am super down. I love the setting. So
yeah, absolutely. The gameplay to me looked pretty damn good. The gameplay, yeah, I share your skepticism. I think there's a few things that need to be ironed out, but it could be build related, so I'm not certain on that just yet. But yeah, the combat stuff looked pretty good. The hacking looked brilliant. I don't know about the hacking mini-game specifically, but the number of things in-game that you can actually influence by hacking. They had instances where a character was hacking other characters and making them, they had bionic arms, for instance, and they hacked their arm and made them pull the pins of their own grenades, for instance, or reach up and, shoot their own heads off, if you could manage to get the right sort of target. So that kind of stuff was really cool. Very different ways of approaching combat problems. I
did like that. That was neat. That actually makes me want to play a Netrunner, so.
Yeah, hell yeah. So, and as it turns out, that was actually the largest public showing of that game to date. PAX Australia broke records in terms of how many people crammed into the hall for that one. So
there wasn't an empty seat. It was ridiculous.
It was nuts. That place was so full. So, yeah, that was really good. But then I want to talk about the game of the show for me, which is probably not going to come as any surprise to anybody who listens or knows me. I finally, after a massive morning of queuing on the Saturday, got in to see Doom Eternal. So they were running full half-hour demos of Doom, and I initially queued for an appointment. I thought I was queuing to get in to play the game, and it turns out I was just actually making an appointment for a later slot of the day, so that was interesting. That was super popular. Getting in to play that game was next to impossible unless you put significant effort first thing in the morning into getting into that line, and that's essentially why you missed out, wasn't it, Matt? Because you just didn't do that, so...
I heard you could skip the line by drinking a pint of blood.
Yeah. if only that was true for the actual gameplay. So, yeah. I played Doom Eternal with extremely high expectations because I loved Doom 2016, and I've heard things from people in the media who have played this already and sort of said how much they liked it, and I went in thinking it was going to be pretty damn good. And I'm very happy to report that my expectations were actually under what I experienced. This game is fucking legit. It is so good. So what they have done from Doom 2016 to this in terms of the general gameplay, the way weapons work, the tactical decisions you have to make about, the way you gather resources from using the flamethrower on your shoulder versus glory kills versus chainsaws versus everything else. it is a technical masterpiece and not just this momentum sort of shooter that it used to be. Like, it still makes you absolutely feel like you're god on legs. Like, it's a power fantasy and then some. But the narrative aspects aside, I think that the general gameplay has sold me 100%. I thought the game was going to be very central around that new sort of shotgun sort of grappling hook mechanic, and that was going to be 90% of the action. Oh, I was so wrong. There is so much more stuff to do than that is just as good. And all of the weapons have really cool alternate firing modes that you have to think about when using them. Switching between weapons at different moments is not just I've run out of ammo of this, so I'm going to switch to this. Like, you actually want to use particular weapons against different foes because of the way they work. You have to think about it a lot more. The platforming traversal felt great. The gripping onto surfaces was excellent. The only thing I didn't really get to experience was the new soundtrack, because the demo level they gave us, I think, only had some very basic sort of sounds added at the moment. They're probably saving the big reveal of the actual soundtrack for the game launch, which I'm kind of happy with, because I want to actually sit down in an environment in my house with my headphones on and that thing just cranked to the max to experience it properly for the first time. I'm happy to wait. But yeah, I'm more sold on Doom Eternal than I ever have been at this point. I am very happy with what I played. So yeah,
I am very much looking forward to playing it and being massively underwhelmed again.
Well, you can do that, and I won't care because I will enjoy it.
I'm joking. I am joking. Please don't send me hate mail.
Any PAX Rising games you want to quickly chat about? So, did you play anything that caught you?
No. So here's the thing. I didn't play any. I ended up getting over there, and I was like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" and chatting with the developers, because that's what I always end up doing. I end up talking to the developers about their game, and they're never actually playing the fucking thing. But like, there were a few key ones that I wanted to call out. So, like, Ring of Pain. I love how that thing looks, like this card game, like horror kind of thing, dealing with like 2 tracks of bullshit kind of heading your way. It's super interesting and like massively confusing to try and work out how you actually play it when you watch the gameplay video. But I'm interested in that. Because,
it reminded me of a bit of a cross
different.
between what's that tower-based card game that we played earlier in the year that I keep forgetting the name of? Adrian, you played it as well.
What was it? Tower-based?
Like card game where it was like a deck builder game and you were ascending a tower.
Slay the Spire?
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one.
The game felt to me like a bit of a cross between Slay the Spire and Darkest Dungeon. So
okay, interesting. That does sound good. I mean, I do like both those games.
Mm.
Yeah, it's definitely got the Darkest Dungeon aesthetic, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was interesting.
But also Necrograms, and Wayward Strand, I think, was the other one.
Yeah, that was super interesting. That was a game actually themed around like a future version of Australia where all the story takes place on an airship. It was really different.
Yeah. Yeah, like you're on there with your mother or grandmother who's like a nurse, and it's basically like this flying old people's home, and you can run around and interact with people, but while you're interacting with them, like time is always progressing, and it's an old people's home, so sometimes people pass away, and basically, like, because that time's always progressing, it means that you can't have every interaction in the game in a single playthrough. So you'll have to go back and actually replay it again if you want to see somebody else's story, which I think is a really cool idea. That's super neat.
Yeah.
Sounds stressful.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
And sad. Like, pretty sad.
Yeah, if you don't do enough in time, that old person dies. Too bad.
Like, time's progressing and you're mid-conversation with them and they die.
Yeah.
It's too much like real life. I don't want to feel guilty about not talking to my grandfather enough. I don't need a video game to layer on that added guilt as well.
Yeah, that's kind of dark now that I consider it. Anyway.
Yeah. Just a tiny bit.
Matt, did you play Death Hall by any chance? Did you get to check that out?
I did not.
No.
Like, I didn't put hands on a single controller in the PAX Rising area. I just didn't get the time.
Well, Death Hall was one of the showcase winners that was very much like a... aesthetically, it looked a little bit Super Meat Boy. It was like a runner, kind of like super dangerous environment, kind of, hellish landscape platform game. But it was actually played on iPad and mobile. So the controls were like touch controls on a screen. It wasn't sort of controller based. Super, super hard. And the aesthetic of it I thought was really cool. The soundtrack was excellent and the gameplay, pardon me, was quite challenging and I liked. So that's one I'll be checking out when it releases. I actually think it might already be out. Yeah, I think it is out already actually. So I can go and check that out when I have a moment. But as a mobile game, I thought it was really cool. So reminded me of playing like a Meat Boy-esque game on mobile, that would be something I would definitely dig. So, yeah.
For sure.
There was this one other thing that I saw, which I'm just trying to pull up an image of now so that I can remember the name of it. But it was basically like an interactive sort of origami image game, similar to the puzzle aspect of like Gorogoa, where you have different elements of images in different sort of areas that you interact with and they connect to each other. Like you might pick up an object from one and then sort of, if it's a key, for instance, like inserted in a door in the other and that sort of thing. But this was an augmented reality game where like the stuff, like the images actually came to life as you were observing them through the screen. So the game was called Moving Marvels, and it was very sort of Leonardo da Vinci sort of sketchbook-like imagery, with all these sort of, weird sort of mechanical contraptions kind of, coming out of the screen at you as you sort of look at them through the AR lens, and, they have moving parts that sort of animate as you're looking at them. It was kind of like this weird cross between like papercraft and like Da Vinci / MC Escher style sort of pictures. So I really dug that. That was cool. There was a big AR theme going on at PAX this year actually. So that was cool to see. But yeah, no, I didn't spend a huge amount of time playing PAX Rising games this year. It was mostly the other activities and the big stuff that we already talked about that I got to. But there was some cool stuff there. There's definitely some games that have been there multiple years in a row, though, which I'd like to see actually come out. But it was good.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right, well, anyway, so we don't run long, let's just quickly wrap up on some of the other peripheral stuff around PAX. So I think it's worth mentioning the great Doom-themed queue room. So the queue room for sort of door entry each day during the convention is usually like a whole activity in itself. Like Bethesda's kind of owned it for the last few years and sort of done stuff relating to their games, and this year was the same. But they really brought it this year. Like instead of giant hoops and inflatable balls to keep the crowd entertained, sort of bashing them around through the hoops. This year they didn't have that, and we were wondering why. And as soon as it became a few minutes before entry, it became abundantly clear. And that's because they planned to set the entire place on fucking fire. So,
yep.
Wow.
They really, like, they culled, like, the numbers at PAX this year. Like, they just burned the entire room alive. It was amazing. It was so good.
That's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of...
Yeah. So what it was basically is they had some big screens up near the front of the queues and they were showing off trailers for all of their games, but they capped it off just before entry with a chain of Doom Eternal trailers. And this is where the queue room got more interesting than the actual Doom Eternal party that I was at, because they played the music and they cranked the shit out of it, and then they turned on these huge flaming sort of torches like what you see at a rock concert, and people who were standing too close to the front like got pretty damn warm. And they cranked the music, they cranked the fire, everyone got really hyped, they shut the lights off, and it was just awesome. So, way to create a good
horrible.
atmosphere.
If I was in that queue, I would have been like, I want my money back. I didn't pay to be abused in line. I would have gone full old man.
No, it was good. It was good. You just had to take my word for it.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, the Destiny panel's worth talking about as well. So we attended that, and that was more of a community sort of themed panel where they had the crew from the Destiny Down Under podcast. It was hosted by the Periodic Table of Awesome, I think, Matt, have I got that right?
Yep. That's correct.
So I don't know who those guys are, but they're extremely talented MCs and they were very entertaining. So that was good. They had Victoria Dahlbaum, who's one of this sort of senior developers from Bungie there, as well as Mola Gorondona, who we spoke about before, who's the Eris Morn voice actor. And yeah, there was a huge amount of humor in that panel. Some really great sort of moments from the different guests, sort of mentioning sort of different things. What was the stuff that stood out to you, Matt? Because you had a couple of things that you mentioned before. Yeah.
All the funny stuff was great, except for the part where they made Eris say "I miss Cade." Then I got really like choked up.
Oh, that's right. They were getting her to do like lines from not from the game, just like user submitted lines that they wanted her to read.
Yeah.
So yeah. There was a bit where they were making jokes about Titans being a bit stupid and people who play Titans not being, the most intellectual. And one of the Titan players on stage started eating paste. That was hilarious. So
I play a Titan.
Yeah.
Yes. This is why it's true, Adrian.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah. You've got nothing to add to that, really. But yeah,
It's
Sad now.
I would get you another packet of crowns. I know the purple ones are your favorite.
No, I want pellets.
just get him some shaker fries, he'll be fine.
Yep.
And there was a beer garden event afterwards, which was named after the new raid, so the beer garden of salvation. So we went out and had some social drinks, and they did some prize giveaways and stuff. So that was good fun. So yeah, there was a huge Destiny presence at PAX this year. Like it was very noticeable, and I think Bungie took note too as to how freaking popular that game is down here at the moment. So hopefully they send some more stuff next year, because there was definitely a call for it. So yeah. We of course did our annual collaboration episode with the Pixel Sift crew. So Party Sift or Pixel Loaded or what the hell we call it. I think we change the name every time we do it. Has sort of happened. And if you're listening to this, if all's gone according to plan, it's already up and you should have listened to it or at least had it available. So go and check that out, because there's some additional commentary on our impressions of the weekend in a nice sort of 20 to 25 minute format. So it's a good, easy listen. And get some thoughts from the other crew as well. So that was good. And what else am I missing? Tabletop gaming, played some good stuff.
Yeah. We played Terraforming Mars, which has been on our lists for a while, and it was fucking awesome.
Yep. I love that game.
Actually,
yeah.
If there was a highlight that I was going to pick from PAX, like as much as Minecraft Dungeons was good, of all the things that I did at PAX, playing that was probably the key thing that I enjoyed the most, because I'm probably going to end up buying that when I go to Tactics next. So
100%. So, Adrian, next time we do a board game night at mine, we need to pull this thing out, because I think it'll be a good fun one. So
yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, it's basically like a area control board game where you're terraforming, Mars using different methods to raise the temperature and the oxygen and different bits and pieces. The theme's great, like it really works well. So
it's really good.
Yeah. And then we had the Omegathon final round, which I'm sure Adrian was very excited to learn was a game called Fight Crab.
Yes, I've been wanting to play Fight Crab forever.
Yeah. So you were already familiar with this one before I mentioned it, were you?
Yeah, I've watched like full gameplay videos of Fight Crab.
Yeah. So the people actually competing on stage for the closing ceremony of this game were shit hats at it. So yeah,
that's a shame.
It didn't last very long.
It doesn't look like the kind of game you're good at.
No.
It seems to be very physics flippy, and if you can't, if you can't deal with the physics, then you kind of get screwed, basically.
It looks like it started off as Crab Simulator, is basically what it looks like it started out as.
Yeah. The controls look really sort of in-depth. Like, it almost looked as difficult as, like, Hand Simulator when you're trying to grip a gun, moving every little individual finger. But with Crabs, I assume it would be, like, two separate controls for the pincers. I don't actually know how it plays control-wise, but it looked hard. That's all I can say. One of the players got a crab and actually mounted a seal for one of the first scenarios and ended up losing because the seal couldn't keep them on top and they ended up falling off the edge of the level. So just weird stuff like
there
that.
There
you go. Yeah. And that was pretty much our week. So a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of game stuff. So overall thoughts, I love PAX this year. It was good fun. It was a little bit less intense than other years. I think that there was a lot more queuing involved, but it was for stuff that I was actually quite keen on, so I didn't mind so much. Walked away feeling pretty satisfied with the week spent. So yeah.
It felt to me like a quieter PAX compared to last year. Like, and I kind of put that down to it's been a quieter year for games. And I think a lot of the stuff that we're really looking forward to is far out enough that it wasn't playable. Though, mind you, like, I was surprised that Death Stranding wasn't playable. Like, that would have been an interesting one to actually have playable. But I suppose they're trying to keep gameplay of that as secret as possible, right? So
I did actually see some posts on Twitter today that there are various people in the games media that are playing it for review right now, and apparently those reviews will start to go up on the 1st of November. I think that's the embargo. So
yeah, I heard that.
Yeah. So we will see. Not too far out. Next month's going to still be a bit crazy, even with the absence of Doom Eternal. We got stuff to look forward to. So
yep. I'm pretty sure Outer Worlds is this weekend.
Oh, is it that soon? Holy crap.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Wow.
Yep.
There we go. Nice. All right.
So you know what I'm doing next week? Sorry.
What are you doing next week? Playing that?
That.
Yeah, cool. All right, just so we're clear.
I thought that
What it
was
sounded
obvious.
like you were saying. I just wanted to make sure.
I could have turned around and said your mum, but I didn't.
Jesus. Oh man. All right. So, Adrian, more Destiny. Anything else that you're going to be playing some more Indivisible with Christian, I assume, because that's the other
Yeah,
thing.
I might go around to a bit more of that. We'll see how we go. But yeah, Destiny certainly. With Iron Banner coming out, I'm probably going to knuckle down and actually do Iron Banner, which I've never really properly done before. So
Yeah.
We'll see how we go. I do have exams coming up soonish at uni, so I should probably prepare for those, maybe.
Nah.
But we'll see how we go.
Nah.
No.
You'll be
not
fine.
important. Yeah,
Yeah, that's it.
we'll see how we go.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, speaking of Iron Banner, I know for a fact that has just gone live. So let's wrap things up because no prizes for guessing what I'm about to jump off and do. So,
Yeah, ditto.
Yeah. Anyway,
Drink
thank
a
you for
pint of
listening.
blood.
Hope you've enjoyed the show. As per ever, you can get hold of us at all the usual places. So our main hub at channelendgame.com has links to our YouTube, our Twitch, and all of the usual stuff. You can also find us on Twitter at Party Loaded Show, on Facebook just for searching for Party Loaded, and you can email us if email is still a thing that you do by sending things to mail at partyloaded.com. But that's it. Hopefully we'll be back with Christian returning next week after he is available again. I will not be here though, so you guys are going to enjoy a show without me for a change. We don't do that very often, so you are going to enjoy the show without me for a change, I'm sure.
That's what I was about to say. Like, we never enjoy episodes until next week.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. I feel so good about this.
I'm enjoying just thinking about it.
All right.
Yeah, same.
Anyway, I look forward to listening to whatever train wreck that ends up being with with great anticipation.
Shots
Musical
fired.
episode.
Yep.
Anyway, stay tuned next week for that. Thank you everybody for listening. Hope you've enjoyed things. We will chat to you again real soon. But for now, it is good night.
Good night.
Good night.
The Party Loaded podcast is a Channel Endgame production. For this and more great gaming content, bookmark channelendgame.com.